Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, you're always looking for and finding the good. You found good in abundance because you have chosen consciously and conscientiously to tune into the Eye on Las Vegas with your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. Notice I didn't say the ambassador of joy. The ambassador of joy, because that's what happens here in this show. The reason you tune in is because we bring you some of the most interesting and amazing and experienced and giving and loving people on the planet. Today, you're going to be truly touched because our dear beloved Adam Weissman is here. He's going to make you more educated about what happens, what we can do to help the people that protect this wonderful country called the United States of America, which everybody in the world loves. And so he's there on the front line helping us out. Now, before we bring on wonderful Dr. Adam Weissman, I want to make mention of something. I am privileged to speak around the world, in person to many groups and on the web, etc. And whenever I mention these two words, Las Vegas, people's eyes open up and they lean in because it's a city of magic. It's a city of energy and opportunity. All kinds of things happen here beyond the idea of gambling and things like that, far, far more than that. So I want to tell everybody something. If you take the population, the entire population of New York City, everything around it, the entire population of Chicago, Illinois, everything around it, the entire population of Los Angeles, California, all the people around it, add them all together, it doesn't come up to the number of people that come to, for, and through Las Vegas in a year. More than 41 million people come here because it's a place of energy and excitement and opportunity and growth. And I can't think of anybody that represents that and really makes a difference in the world than this wonderful, amazing being named Adam Weissman. Adam, please say hello to 506,917 people around the world.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for that introduction. I really appreciate it. And that's a lot of people.
Yes, well, we're here. And so one of the most important things that people understand is that our listening audience is worldwide. We have people literally from Bhutan, Baluchistan, Azerbaijan, throughout Africa, throughout Europe, throughout Latin America, of course, the United States of America, and North America, and Canada, Greenland, whoever owns it. And the reason that people tune in is because of someone like yourself, Adam. So I'm just going to, if I start telling everybody about your background, it would take too long. I'm going to give 3 data points only. Number one, his name is Dr. Adam Weissman, but he's given us permission to call him Adam. And Dr. Weissman is 20 years as an emergency room certified physician. And then he made a transition because he cares really much about the people who have really stood in the breach to protect everything that's great about America. Those are veterans. And the unfortunate situation where veterans are not getting that which they deserve and earned. So Dr. Weissman took it under his own hands to rectify that situation. The third point I want to make is that he's happily married with 3 children. That's a beautiful thing, that the kind of person you really want to be with. So again, Adam, it's such a pleasure to have you here. And let's just start right away and talk about what's happening specifically with veterans and even more pointedly with disabled veterans.
Sure. Thank you for the intro. I appreciate that. One of the things that I learned, and I've actually, as an emergency room doctor, even worked at military hospitals, and I've traveled a lot with veterans back to Vietnam and back to Pearl Harbor and so forth. And one of the things that I learned, or a couple of things I learned, one is that if you join the military, you actually run a pretty decent chance of leaving the military, whether it's after a few years or 20, 25, 30 years, with some disabilities. That could be back pain, which is very, very common. It could be PTSD. It could be a whole host of different things. Doesn't mean these aren't perfectly functional people and great people, but it can take a toll to be in the military. As a result of this, if the VA determines that these disabilities are from being in the service, they will call them service-connected disabilities and give them a disability rating for it. But unfortunately, a lot of veterans aren't familiar with this whole process and how it works. And going through the military, many of them have been told, suck it up. You're a Marine, you're a whatever, just take some ibuprofen. You're going to be fine. Push on, push on. Some of them finish the military with disabilities, but have nothing documented. So they don't know, or it's not well documented that it was a service connected problem. And even if it is documented, knowing how to navigate that whole process so that they can get the full disability benefits that they've earned, that they deserve, can be really challenging for a lot of veterans. And that's where I recognized that deficit and jumped in to help.
So before we discuss what it is that you were able to do and build to be of benefit to service people, let's be blunt. Anytime you're dealing with a bureaucracy as large as the United States government, almost by definition, the labyrinth is so labyrinthine that it's almost impossible for any normal human being to navigate it. So the ability for your organization, your company, to be able to help go through the myriad number of hoops that one must jump through in order to receive that which they're entitled to. We're not talking about gaming the system. We're talking about legitimate situations, as you mentioned, and being able to bring benefits. Because if you're in service, whether it's you're on the front line or not, there will be difficulties to be encountered. Let's be blunt. Anybody in police work, anybody as a first responder, anybody in the most stressful of situations, that will take a toll physically, mentally, and spiritually. Now, we're not dealing with spiritual disabilities at the moment, even though there's probably many. However, the physical and the mental are real. And the ability, first of all, to recognize that, which is very recent. Am I correct on that, by the way? In other words, it was not known after World War. They were known, but it was, as you said, poo-pooed after World War II or even Korea. I think it was only after Vietnam that the service began to recognize that there are these related situations that we now call PTSD. Is that correct historically?
Yeah, very much so. A lot of times veterans of older wars were just quiet about it. They were sometimes withdrawn. Their gear sometimes wasn't perfect. But full recognition of the impact of war or just wartime training and so forth wasn't appreciated until more recent times, such as Vietnam. Very true.
Right. So and I am of age. Those of you who are watching, by the way, you get a great shot here of something. Adam Weissman is pleasant, purposeful, powerful, well-spoken, very good looking, and he's dedicated to helping people. I am exactly the same. I'm just another generation older than him. I am 76 chronologically. So when I mentioned about Vietnam, I did not personally enroll. I did have a number of family members who did, a number of dear friends who were in Vietnam, and several of them were traumatized, and unfortunately, several of them committed suicide. By the way, suicide is a not uncommon situation for veterans of all stripes, especially disabled. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's 100% true. It's a huge problem on a daily basis. And that's one of the things that the military tracks is the frequency of this problem. And there's a lot of contributing factors. Certainly PTSD is a huge factor, but being disabled, not necessarily being able to work functionally, sometimes getting into arguments at work, having problems at home. If you're getting shot at and you're sensitive to noise and you're very reactive as you need to be in the military, taking that to the workplace, taking that to the home is very, very difficult. And then you add financial constraints. Many, many veterans live very tight financially, if not poor. The veteran homeless problem is a huge problem. Substance abuse is a big problem, and so forth. So when you put all that together, it's very impactful. I developed a program within our company to help identify people who are homicidal or suicidal, and help direct them towards services.
So I'd like to help us transition now and talk about what it is that you saw, that you intuited after decades of working in very difficult situation, emergency room, and that you made this decision to open up a company called REE Medical. So we'll call it REE. REE Medical. What is it that you do? What was it that you found that you're able now to do to help veterans? It's more than just filling out the right forms, right? Okay, technology is wonderful when it works, and when it doesn't, it's still wonderful. So we have a little technology glimpse right here. Adam, can you hear me? Oh, now you can. Okay, now you can hear me, right?
Yeah, my apologies about that. I think it might be on my end. My apologies.
It's okay.
Right.
It's all good. Good news
But
is
I can.
people are leaning in because they want to know. So let's go back to the question. What you do with your company, it's more than just helping veterans fill in forms, correct?
100%. Yeah, the veterans that have service-connected disabilities and are given an overall disability rating, which is in 10% increments. You're 50%, 70%, 10%, 100% disabled, whatever the case may be. A very large percentage of them have a disability rating that does not fully match their actual current level of disability. That may be because they didn't have a disability rating assigned to them that was accurate in the first place, or we know that most disabilities get worse over time, not better, and they have to apply to the VA to get that increase. So maybe they were accurately given a 50% rating 15 years ago, but their back pain, their PTSD, whatever, their elbow pain may be worse nowadays, and they need to apply to the VA for that. The challenge they run into is that going to the VA and going through the bureaucracy, something that many of them are not that familiar on how to navigate, can be extremely challenging. And a lot of these people, especially I would say the people with PTSD, may have an aversion to doctors. It's not easy to talk about how you have nightmares or how you get startled or whatever the issue might happen to be. It's challenging. So if you put all that together, a lot of them are left with a disability rating that doesn't match their level of disability. When they go to the VA for a reevaluation, some of them have a pretty efficient walk through the VA to go through and see a psychiatric doctor or a medical doctor who can review their records and so forth. But unfortunately, many of them do not. And this process for them can take many months, sometimes many years, and may or may not be successful for them. Now, when the VA puts them through the process, they'll do this for free. There's no charge to the veteran, which is fantastic. But if they're due a higher disability rating and they don't get that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, they're losing out on potentially thousands or tens of thousands of dollars that they deserve. So what happened to me all the way back in 2016, I was working full-time in the emergency room and operating a medical clinic, is some veterans approached me and said, hey, you're a doctor. And I actually have a disability background in that I used to run a medical chart review company that did reviews for Social Security disability. So you have a disability background and you're a doctor. Can you help us? Here's the problem. Here's what we're going through. And they knew that I had I'm not a veteran myself, but they knew I had connections with veterans, having traveled to Vietnam and so forth. So they found me actually. And they said, we're fighting the fight.
Let's put you on pause for a moment, because this is such a wonderful story. And I want to emphasize how honored and humbled I am that you're here and how much I love what you're telling us. Now, we have sponsors for the show. We have one right now. Now, if we didn't think it's worthy of your time, we wouldn't have them. We're going to take a 44-second break, and we'll come right back with more of Dr. Adam Weissman and this fabulous story of being able to help people who deserve our help. Be right back. Don't go away.
What if you could shop at your favorite local stores, swipe your current credit card and get extra cashback rewards? And what if you could also have donations sent to your favorite cause at no extra cost to you? What if this amazing program was absolutely free and very simple to set up? Well, What If is here. Welcome to Einstein Cares, where your everyday shopping gives you and your favorite cause extra money. It's fast, it's easy, and effortless.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe a good-looking show is looking for and finding the good. Our cup runneth over with good good. It's an amazing, wonderful story. Dr. Adam Weissman's working in an emergency room. He's been doing this for years. He has a background in health and disabilities. He was a doctor that helped the Social Security system certify if somebody deserving of benefits and such because they were disabled. And he was taking care and helping out veterans. And he's telling us a story how some veterans approached him, let's say about 7-8 years ago, I think it was, you're saying, 2017 or so, and said, can you help us? And when someone says to a doctor with good background and good instincts, can you help me? By definition, he's ready to say, yes, what can I do to help? So let's talk about it. But first we do that, I just want to make sure everybody, you want to share this with 5 people. You want to share it with 50 or 100, that's okay. But at least 5 so we can touch 2.5 million people around the world. This is an amazing, important story that needs to be told. And of course, love us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So Dr. Weissman, here we are. These veterans come to you and you're where? You're in San Diego, California, is that correct?
I was at the time, yeah.
Right, well, San Diego is it's the home of the Navy. It's also the home of the Marines. So there's a lot of activity in that area around military and obviously veterans and such like that. So now you're approached and they're giving you an opportunity to be of service. So tell us what you did right away.
Yeah, so I appreciated the opportunity and I was extremely motivated to help them. So what I started doing is intaking their medical records so that I could understand what disabilities they had, and then started doing evaluations on them to understand how bad the disabilities were and how maybe they progressed since they were last evaluated for it. And then I filled out their DBQs, which are disability benefit questionnaires, documenting these details. So it's kind of a history and physical exam that gets documented on these forms. And then the veteran themselves submit this to the VA, and the VA rater makes a determination. Okay, fine, you're at 50% disability. Based on this new documentation, you meet criteria for whatever, 80%, 100%, whatever was appropriate for the veteran. And the VA rater makes that determination and then potentially increases their overall disability rating. And then with that rating, the veteran will get many things, most importantly, extra money each month to help them live, to help them pay their rent, buy food, whatever they need.
So I want to ask a question. You just mentioned something. Let's everybody focuses, not everybody, I am at the moment focusing on more money. In other words, let's say the benefit, I just make up a number, is $3,500 a month for a 50% disability. However, an 80% disability is going to pay $4,700 a month. Well, that's a significant increase. Okay, that's nice. Are there other benefits? In other words, I would, non-military person, I would assume that the government, and again, we're talking about the government, has other beneficial aspects. In other words, there's money, maybe there's a housing allowance, maybe there's a food allowance, an auto allowance. Who knows? I mean, this is the United States of America. We're the richest country in the history of the world. Are there other aspects of these benefits that are available as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are many benefits available for veterans in general, and some that are specific to disabled veterans. They may get money for schooling, for college, either for themselves or their family. They also, an example would be in Texas. For example, I even met with this Texas legislators just recently on many issues, including this, where once they hit a certain disability rating, they don't have to pay property tax, which is a huge savings for the veteran. So there's a whole host of different things.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to hear, because again, oftentimes people focus on money, how much money, and the reality of life is that someone who has volunteered, because we do have a volunteer service, putting their life on the line. And I don't care if you're working in the commissary, you never saw action on the front line. However, you're doing service for our country in a very specific way. And most people don't do. The number of people, the percent of people that go into the military today is fractional compared to what it was, let's say 40 years ago, 50 years ago, Vietnam and such like that. So it's really important work that you're doing. And as you said, what you did is you built up a company that doesn't charge the veteran anything. You make money, I presume, somehow on the benefit that accrues after the fact.
Not exactly. Let me give you a little detail on that. And actually, let me step back a little bit just for clarification. So the veteran has choices. The veteran can go directly to the VA for free, no cost to them, and they can actually go through this process through the VA. And for some people, it's successful. For some people, it can take a lot of time or be kind of arduous, but can be successful. And unfortunately, for some people, they run into roadblocks or it's too much red tape and they stop going down that process. So it's an individual case-by-case basis, but very much can be challenging with this free option for them. Another option is they can go to a veteran service organization like the VFW or other charitable organizations. The VA is funded by taxpayers. The veteran service organizations have other sources of donations and money that they operate off of, but they do not charge the veteran. And they can assist the veteran with various things in social activities or even assist with these types of services. Again, for free for the veteran. It's a phenomenal thing. I really support the concept of the VSOs, the veteran service organizations. However, not all VSOs are created equal. Some are more socially oriented, get together and have a beer and decompress or do different activities. Some have very extensive resources, and that can vary even within a specific VSO location by location. But again, some of them are able to help the veterans with these, with the, examinations and so forth for free for the veteran. That's a great option. A third option the veterans have is they can go to an accredited attorney, a VA accredited attorney. They will represent them with the VA and help coordinate an examination and so forth. That's free on the front end, but afterwards, when the veteran gets an increase, they will charge them. And that can be a percentage of their back pay and so forth. I think it's a great service. I'm glad it's offered. Many people go down that alley. It can be a little expensive after the fact sometimes, but it is definitely an option. And then they have the fourth option, which is the private sector, like my company, REE Medical, and there's other companies out there. I will say not all private sector companies operate the same way, so I'll speak on behalf of my own company. But what we do is we will intake the veteran and we will do help evaluate whether or not the VA might grant them an increase in their disability benefits. We would never guarantee what the VA will or will not do, but there are criteria that the VA follow that we have that are publicly available, and certainly because of that, we have access to it. And we will ask key questions. What's your current disability rating? What are you disabled with? What kind of service-connected disabilities do you have? And then how bad are those things? And we ask very specific questions to understand if the VA may consider them a candidate for a higher disability rating. Okay. And, we also understand the VA financial chart. So if you go from, like you were saying, from 50% to 100%, how much money that may represent that the veteran could get extra per month. If the veteran is a candidate for an increase based on the VA's criteria, they may want to sign up with us. Now, we are private sector, so we do charge a fee. At REE Medical, what we do is it's fee for service, and we make the fee as inexpensive as we possibly can, and it's one-stop shopping. We don't take their back pay. We want them to keep as much money as possible. And from that fee, we also pay the doctor. So we are in all 50 states and 9 other countries. And we will actually intake the veterans' medical records. They'll supply them to us. We'll coordinate everything for the doctor so it's all prepped and ready to go. And then they will see one of our contracting non-VA doctors local to them. It can be California, Nebraska, any state, or even 9 other countries. Probably the Philippines is our biggest country outside of the United States, but we're in many other countries as well because veterans move, right? You can move to Japan if you want to. They can move to wherever they want. And then they'll see a medical doctor or a psychiatric doctor local to them. That doctor or those doctors, if they need to see both medical and psych, will then complete the disability paperwork, those DBQs that I mentioned earlier. And then we'll do a quality check on it, make sure it's filled out, completely and so forth. And then the veteran will take those and submit them to the VA, and the VA will make whatever determination they make. If the VA gives them a nice big increase, then phenomenal, or whatever increase is appropriate for them. But we don't touch those dollars after the fact. We want the veteran to keep that, and that's our model. But because we're not paid by the taxpayer like the VA is, for example, is why we have to charge the veteran so that we have a way of covering our expenses and paying the doctors. But like I said, we do try and keep our costs and therefore our charges extremely cheap and very, very affordable for the veterans.
And you have, after, thank God, these number of years and dealing with so many cases, I presume, a very good handle on success rate. In other words, you can determine based on the information that you're being provided with their potential success rate, 75%, 85, 95, 100%. Obviously, nothing's 100%, but primarily you can know fairly easily or fairly shortly after the beginning of the process whether or not the candidate is going to be successful or not. Is that right?
Yeah, again, we would never guarantee what the VA is or is not going to do, but we're very good at understanding their criteria and making estimates of what they would do based on the VA's own criteria. Because if somebody does not appear to be a candidate for an increase in their benefits, we don't want them to waste their time or spend any dollars or anything like that going through a process that's not going to be successful. For the veterans who do appear to meet criteria for an increase and that use our assistance in going through this process, roughly 96% or so of them are ultimately given an increase by the VA. So it's not wasting their time at all.
Oh, this is wonderful. The obvious question I didn't ask, but I'm asking now because I am so curious. How many people are we talking about? Are we talking about 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, 2 million people that in these let's say categories of, disability?
There are millions of disabled veterans. Millions of disabled veterans. There are nearly 1 million right now currently trying to go through the process with the VA to get an increase. And of the ones that are going directly through the VA or maybe assistance with VSOs, about 250,000 are in backlog, meaning their timeline is delayed. So it's a big, big number. We work with our company, REE Medical, works with a few thousand veterans a month, every month. The private sector collectively definitely takes the edge off this backlog. But I would say that the majority of veterans, the large majority of veterans, try these free options first, like going to the VA or getting the assistance of a veteran service organization first. Of the ones that run into challenges, they're the ones most likely to go to the private sector for efficient system or assistance, and those, at least I'll speak on behalf of my company, but those have been extremely successful. And our throughput time is weeks, not months or years. I mean, it takes a few months, but it's not years at all.
Great news. Adam, I'm just so happy that you're doing what you're doing, as are you. By the way, I came up with an acronym for your name during the break. Can I tell you the acronym for your name?
Please.
ADAM, because I'm getting it from who you are. You're aware, determined, active, and motivated.
I love it. Thank you.
It's you, right?
Appreciate that.
And what you're doing to help the most vulnerable and the most dedicated people in our country. And again, we're the richest
and deserving
in the world and deserving. I'm sorry, I'm loath to say the words I'm about to say. We're coming to a close on our time together. I have 3 quick questions for you. You ready?
Yes.
Number 1, will you come back again?
I'd love to. Thank you.
Number 2, Adam Weissman. You have only 44 seconds to answer this question. What is your most fervent desire?
Oh, it's always been to help as many people as possible. As an emergency room doctor, running REE Medical, to be a net positive on the world and society.
I love it. And number 3, may I give you a hug in front of 511,917 people around the world?
Absolutely. I'd like that.
Let me tell you what HUG stands for. You ready? Heartfelt, unlimited giving. 1, 2, 3.
Love it.
I'm going to tell you right now, everybody, this show is not about Adam, the great guy that he is. Barry Shore, fabulous. It's about you becoming the best you possible. Because when you're the best you make the world a better place, build more bridges of harmony, create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And I'm going to give a blessing coming from Dr. Adam Weissman. And the ambassador of joy. And the blessing is go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Adam, don't go away.